For regular videos on ancient cultures and forgotten civilizations, please subscribe.
This is something that I thought we could talk a little bit about, Miniminuteman. I did not tell tell you this ahead of time, but I was jotting down a list of vocabulary of pseudo archaeology. So if a person, just for the average viewer, if you're on YouTube or whatever, and you're clicking on something, oh, this ancient, I love ancient history, I'm going to click on this ancient history. What are some of the telltale signs that you're watching a pseudo archaeology video? So you can chime in too, Milo. I just jotted a couple things down, maybe to get your mind thinking about this. But have you ever heard people use the term oopart?
Do you know what oopart? I've heard oopa, out of place artifact. Is it
yes,
similar?
That's what it is. Okay. You've heard it upa as well. Well, oopart or upa, out of place artifact, which is not an archaeological term, right? It's obviously something you will never find in a scholarly video or anything that you'll find from an actual.
No artifact is out of place. Every artifact is in place.
Right. Now there are artifacts that may say, "Oh, this has come from somewhere else. It was transferred."
Yes,
that does happen. But no one ever says oopart. So if you're watching a video on YouTube and they say the word oopa or oopart, you know that you're watching probably a pseudo archaeology video. Another one.
It's a good rule of thumb.
Yes. Another one. Megalithic period or the megalithic age. Now I shouldn't. Not in all cases, because I know that in India there is an actual megalithic period. But when they refer to the megalithic times or megalithic age, this is a fake time period that they're just basically taking all of the large megaliths and they're saying they all belong to the same time period, which they don't. But I noticed if they start talking about a megalithic period, it's usually an indication that you're watching a pseudo archaeology video.
I feel like megaliths are one of those things which are so easily thrown around that people don't like. Especially just with the suffix of like lithic, you think of like, oh, like Neolithic and stuff like that. And people don't realize like a megalith is like a structure which didn't really have a time period. Like megaliths have been built for like, for recorded history. So to say a megalithic period is like, exactly. Yeah. There's a megalith down the street from me. It's in a park, but it's a big rock standing on its end. Like, it was probably built in like 2005, but it's still a megalith.
Right. Yeah, there is no one time period that you can put it, and which is interesting because that they do that actually with a lot of things where they're like, oh, look they have a pyramid over here and they have a pyramid over here. It must be from the same time period. You know what I mean? Even though the pyramids look completely different.
I mean, a great example of that is like Stonehenge. Like Stonehenge, while it is one largely visible complex, like it was built over the course of like hundreds of years. There's like so many like layers that were like built on that you can't really see anymore quite as easily. But it's like, there was no like, oh, like here it's time for megaliths. Let's go. Like it was just, built upon time after time. So
yes.
And another one that I think is kind of interesting, which is less of something you may see in like a more amateur video, and it's something I've seen a lot more in like Ancient Aliens and stuff like that, is where someone who is, supposed to be an expert, like, they're the one talking about it, they're labeled as an author. It's a little one, but I think that's
author,
really fun.
Yes.
Yeah. And
or
I'm not one to be like,
is another one.
Researcher.
A researcher. Right.
Researching what, and I'm not one who has to be like, you need, a laundry list of credentials in order to talk about archaeology. That's one of the beautiful things about science is so many people are researching it that, anyone can do their own research and the information is readily available. So I'm not like you have to be a PhD in order to even talk about it.
Nothing against researchers or authors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I find it really funny when someone who clearly does not have a very good grasp on the reality of a topic is labeled as just an author because they don't have the credentials to be anything else. Like they have no formal archaeology training.
And if you don't believe that you need credentials, then you don't have to make up a credential, right? You don't have to say, I'm a special researcher or whatever. You could just say, I'm just me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But the fact that they want to put something there to kind of make it sound as if they have credentials, that's kind of the interesting thing.
I that's something that I've definitely kind of noticed a lot in my time doing this, is because archaeology is such a field that is, like stereotyped as being this very like highly academic, field, which it is by and large. Many of the people I met in college are like lifetime career archaeologists. But that's something that I've noticed a lot when doing my videos is I'm like, I don't know what to label myself as, because it would make me feel like a fraud to say that I am an archaeologist when I have like a training in it. I haven't been out on a dig, you know, so it's like I don't want to like claim that, when in reality that title requires a lot of, you know, research and a lot of time and investment in order to say that. So I'm just like, I'm Milo. I talk about this stuff. You guys know I've been researching it, you know, my whole life. I'm a researcher.
Yes.
But like, you know, I don't feel the need to like make up some title to try and make myself sound like I'm, you know, I don't know, better than I am.
Yeah. Here's another one that I used to see a lot. Precision architecture, or precision. What they use this word precision like it's this kind of architecture. It's like look at this precision artifact. You know, usually you don't find in regular archaeologists. I mean, they'll talk about something with maybe having precision, but they don't like have it as like an identifier. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at this precision, you know, stone, or this precision pillar, or whatever. It seems to be a catchword that's used a lot in the pseudo archaeology videos. Nothing wrong with the word precision. Nothing wrong with describing it as precise, but as a catchword, kind of.
It almost implies, like, it carries with it the like thought that the person is going to think that precision and ancient people are mutually exclusive. Like, it's precise and therefore you should be confused about it. Not it's precise and they were really good at doing what they did because that was what their civilization revolved around. Like, here's like, you know, a giant pyramid and it was built with such precision. Like, of course it was. That was like, you know, a massive investment to spend all that time building the pyramid. You're going to make it perfect.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There are so many. You have one. What's up?
Well, if you have any, just
I know.
go ahead.
I'm racking my brain.
I'm just interested in getting your thoughts on each one.
Yeah.
So another one I see sometimes is a Great Reset. Now, this is used also in conspiracy theory, so it's, it's something different as well. But in reference to ancient history, they'll talk about the Great Reset or a Great Reset. And they're talking about because there was once a lost advanced civilization, but then it got destroyed and the earth reset, right? In other words, the world had to start all over again. But you'll never find the expression Great Reset in an actual history or archaeology video. You'll only find it in those types of videos. So if you hear that expression, then you're like, oh, this might be one of those kind of videos. Yeah.
A lot of the language is very like assumption-based language. I mean, similarly to the precision one, saying Great Reset is, you know, rhetorical in the sense that by just saying it, you are stating it as fact. When in reality, if there was any sort of evidence for it, it would be something which, you know, like if there was any sort of evidence for it, it would be used more widely. And there would also be evidence backing it up. Like, here, let's talk about the Great Reset. Here's proof that it happened. And now I can use it in conversation. Whereas that barrier has never been crossed. So by just saying the Great Reset, you know, and now here's the story of Atlantis, you and I are going to be like, well, let's talk about Atlantis because, you know, it's wrong, or whatever the evidence is weak. But like, you know, it's almost like a filibuster that takes you off topic, because the Great Reset still slips under the cracks and it's an assumption without ever giving any evidence for it.
Right. And I know it's used in other ways. I'm just talking about in this particular context. And there might be actually some other, maybe there are some real usages of the word in other contexts. But I mean, in this, so basically I'm just identifying like lingo that you might find in a video that's what we might call a pseudo archaeology video. Another word that's used all the time is mainstream. Okay, so right,
mainstream archaeologists think X, Y, Z,
right, and almost as a pejorative. You know what I mean? It's like like it's a bad thing. If it's mainstream, it is.
Which is very weird, and it does kind of you know, highlight that fact that, you know, the irony there is how these people will try and make up, you know, give themselves titles when they then go on to try and undermine people who are professionals in their field. It's like, so do you trust professionals or do you not trust professionals? Because you're going through a lot of work to try and look like a professional, but then when you talk about mainstream archaeologists, you say it with such, you know, vitriol that it sounds like you have a problem with it. It's very weird.
I saw recently on it might have been Forrest Valkai. It was on a science debunking channel. Or he's a scientist who debunks pseudoscience, but he was saying, he referred to the expression mainstream science. He's like, that's just science. You know what I mean? It's like, there's no other, you know what I mean? There's no other thing. There's science and then there's not science. There's no mainstream science. I'm not sure if you could say it with archaeology or history or not. Maybe you could use it with those. I don't know. But if someone calls something mainstream, they're obviously advocating something that isn't mainstream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is interesting. It does kind of turn it into, like a way of slipping doubt into science, not mainstream science, just science. There's a reason why it's mainstream because most people unanimously agree upon it. So it's a really interesting way of like undermining it and then like you said earlier, as we touched on, it, feeds into the idea that what the majority believes is not true and that you are more capable of, going onto a flat earth website and watching Ancient Aliens and doing your own research. And that makes you just as good as mainstream science.
Yeah. Or they'll use the word orthodox. Orthodox.
Yes. In the video that I'm editing, or the Dendera video, there's one video that talks about that quite a bit. Yeah.
Which kind of implies like they're telling you have to believe this.
Yeah, exactly. In the video that I was reviewing for that one that I'm posting soon, there's this tinfoil hat conspiracy YouTube page, and the woman on it is talking about, she was like, there have been many scientists who have challenged the orthodox beliefs of science. I'm like, that's a great lead up because it's absolutely true. Science is built off of questioning. Science is built off of finding ways to refute those before you and improve on their research. And I was like, so who's she going to say? And her researcher who challenged the orthodox beliefs of science was Eric von Daniken. I was okay.
Yes.
So pretty funny what constitutes, unorthodox.
Yes. Another bit of lingo I hear quite a bit is, well, not a lot, but it does come up from time to time, and that is gradualism.
Ooh, I don't know if I've heard that one.
Okay. Gradualism refers to the mainstream idea that technology gradually progresses over time. And they're like, oh, gradualism is not true because they give this the opposite, catastrophism, which is the idea that you can have high technology and then you can go way down to nothing and then you can come back up again and then go down. So in other words, that if you look at the timeline of history, it's not going to be a gradual improvement of technology over time. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up or something like that. Yeah. So they speak of gradualism as being in error, the mainstream, they assume gradualism is true.
What's really interesting is the thought that, like, on a small scale, I almost think that's not entirely incorrect. Like, there are civilizations which rise and fall.
Yeah, yes.
You could even, and that kind of touches on another thing which I notice as a running theme with a lot of these, especially Ancient Aliens conspiracy theories, is this misconception of how interconnected the world was. Like, you'll notice, like, they'll pull sites from all across the planet because we are raised in a global society. We are living at the only time in history that we know of that every single person and civilization in the world is connected. I'm talking to you right now. I don't even know where you are, and I'm talking to you through a phone. Someone, sent a super chat from Brazil a minute ago. Like, we all can talk to each other. And because we have been raised in a world like this, they have this weird idea that everything is connected. And so when they think about ancient history, they think about it as the story of Earth instead of the story of civilizations cropping up in different places. So it's really interesting that reset theory, while I think it's hyperbolic, could be true on a small scale. I mean, the obvious one that comes to mind is Rome. Rome was highly advanced and then collapsed. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, like, yeah, that can happen.
It doesn't go all the way down to the bottom.
Exactly.
They always assume it goes all the way down to the bottom.
Exactly. It's not like, suddenly, they one day they were, bred in circuses, Colosseum, lead piping, and then the next day they were like figuring out how to like flint knap obsidian. It was not that drastic, but like, it sort of happened.
Yes.
Yeah, they think so far outside the box, which is ironic because, like, that would almost be a benefit to science if they reined it in a little bit. Like, science is built on, like, the idea of questioning stuff and being like, let's take it a little bit further. Let's see, like, what we can build on. And there really is a problem in the scientific world of people being so staunchly against change, especially when someone has pioneered a field. It's like, I did all this work. I don't want, like, some young guy to come in and suddenly change everything. Like, it happens like that in everything, especially in science fields. But, like, that's the whole point of it. And so it'd be really interesting if these people, like, actually spent a little bit of time on their research and put all of that, brain power and that inquisitiveness and that curiosity towards developing a real hypothesis based off of the fact and the, research and evidence that was made by those before them.
Yes. People are sometimes surprised. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. Okay. People are sometimes surprised when I tell them that when I was in grad school, I had a reputation for being the one that was always thinking of ideas outside the box, right? Because they think of me, they see my YouTube channel, they think I am a staunch defender of the establishment line, you know, just because I address these outlandish claims, bizarre claims, you know. They think I'm not open-minded. But actually, in my actual scholarship, I'm always trying to think of some new idea that people haven't thought of before. It's but I give the other impression just because of my debunking videos.
Yeah, and that's again, you know, a great point. I was watching your stream a little bit, like while I was in the waiting room, and just kind of like seeing sort of the interaction with fans and whatnot. And you know, what I think is really interesting about this field is how long you can go and just still be learning stuff. Like when I do like live things and I have people talking to me, they'll be like, "Oh, have you read this or have you heard of this theory?" And most of the time, it's no. And I'm like, I feel like I have a decent grasp on stuff, but it's just because someone is telling me about a book that I've never read before doesn't mean the book doesn't exist. You know, it's like you always are open to these new things. And then, like you said, you know, then giving off the whole argumentative thing and being like, no, this is fact. It can give the impression that it's like, well, you just don't like change.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I want to do that more on my channel where I have some of my own original ideas. But actually, see, if I have an original idea, I want to publish it in an academic journal.
For sure.
Do I want to put it on YouTube first before I have it all formulated? Probably
That's a good way to get an idea stolen.
Yeah. So that's a lot of that's why, you know. And also, I'm a teacher by trade, and my YouTube channel is for teaching people. I don't in my classes. It's at the college. I don't. Hey, here's my new theory. I don't do it there because it's not really the venue for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or you know, when I want to present it at a conference, or if I want to put it in a journal or something like that, that's where I have the new ideas. But I know a lot of my viewers are asking me to do it on my channel.
I mean, I'd be curious to see what you got, you know. So
yeah. But
yeah, it's I think that's a misconception that a lot of these conspiracy theorists have, is that, you know, people like you and I and a lot of the people watching right now are you know, we're like, this is fact. We don't want to expand anymore. We do. We want to learn this stuff. We want to be better informed about how the world was. That's why we do this. It's just when someone comes and starts, you know, just bringing up this rhetoric and stuff that doesn't make any sense, then it's like, well, now you're doing more harm than good, and you're not thinking outside the box. You are setting the box on fire.
Yes.